T-minus 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
We are go.
The fusion of rational thought and political analysis.
This is what your brain has been waiting for. News, politics, and issues in hand.
You've just joined the Wilkow Majority.
The next generation of great talk radio, the undisputed leader of the new school. Andrew Wilkow, Sirius XM Patriot. Phone lines, as always, 1-866-95-PATRIOT. That's 957-2874. The email to spell my name right, WILKOW, at WilkowMajority.com. Individual Patriot first, Conservative second, Republican third, and working every single day to make this the most popular program offered by Sirius XM Radio, because it's based in one thing and one thing only, and that is rational thought. So welcome to the Wilkow Majority. I'm Andrew Wilkow. It's a Friday. We don't slow down. We don't back off. We don't take it easy. We go full steam ahead. 3 hours of perfectly executed political analysis. I make no secret or apologies for my love of punk rock. I know for a lot of people, it's like, how could you be a conservative and like punk rock? It's pretty easy, actually. First of all, what you listen to has nothing to do with what you believe. It's music, it's art, it's expression. There are 2 songs in high school that jumped through the speakers and grabbed me and have never let go. And that is Holidays in the Sun by the Sex Pistols and Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. Now, in the case of the Pistols, Johnny Rotten, a.k.a. John Lydon, did something that maybe you can name 3 people in the music industry that did. Burst onto the scene. First of all, basically told the record companies to go to hell and the radio to go to hell. They made their impact by just being the sheer force of music and art that they were, the Pistols. But then John Lydon went and basically invented an entire new genre of music with the band Public Image Limited. And if you go and listen to songs like Rise, Seattle, I mean, just not Rise, Seattle, they're 2 different songs. You see someone that made such an undeniable, indelible impact in one genre, and then was able to create basically, I'll just say this, in my personal opinion, the new wave craze of the 80s would not have happened without Public Image Limited. So fast forward to today. John Lydon was photographed in a Make America Great Again t-shirt, and he's got a lot on his plate and a lot to talk about, and he's joining us now for the first time. Sir, welcome to the program.
God, what an intro. Thank you very much, sir.
I see that you've got a book. I could be wrong. I could be right. Obviously, lyrics from Public Image Limited. You got the new documentary, The Public Image is Rotten. I am so looking forward to this. So before we get into any of this stuff about the Make America Great Again shirt, talk about the book, talk about the speaking tour, talk about the documentary.
Right. Well, the book is called I Could Be Wrong, I Could Be Right, which is the refrain taken from the song Rise. And it's a book that's basically the story of how I form opinions and what opinions are based on, which are always situations that directly or indirectly connect to me. It's not just a work of fantasy that I come up with. I'm very far from a Marxist.
I was going to say, I was reading the copy that they sent to me, and under the headline of snobbery, I do love this. You talk about commercialism and competition and how competition does create quality things, but then you refer to things being all made the same as left wing. Now that's, I believe, I was very happy you put that in the book.
Well, you should be, because to me, I'm from the working class of England, right? I mean, we're always like the lowest on the rung, right? When our viewpoints, our opinions are never considered. It's always the elitists that go to universities and colleges that think they can condescend their opinion upon us and thereby inflict, what we're currently watching at the moment in the riots in Portland. The great, selfish, unthinking, stupid arses that come out of those institutions. They don't think, they don't know what they're doing, but they feel they have the right to dictate to the rest of us what is or is not. How is destroying property nightly, and how many days has that gone on now in Portland, for instance? How is that helping anybody? It's just destruction and jealousy. And they're doing all this with mummy and daddy's money that paid for the education that's turned them into basically the Borg.
You know what's crazy is I interviewed an author who was a member of Antifa and is now, seen just how horrible of a movement it is. But one thing that he said that I found quite shocking, and probably if they were confronted by you, there is no punk rock without John Lydon, right? There is no punk culture as we know it without John Lydon. He said that their entire existence was predicated on early punk culture. And when I heard that, I thought...
how they got it wrong, though,
Yeah.
I gave them all the potential there to understand the art of being an individual, which is what I've always viewed myself as. And yet this collectivism wrapped up in the ideology and dogma of communism is the exact opposite of anything I could ever feel or think.
When I listen...
crazy. It's an amalgamation of loosely connected together to make no sense at all. And I think that's their major weapon, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no thought, no questioning, no history, no hope. Well, welcome to communism, which, to my mind, equals slavery. Now, I've played in communist bloc countries, before the walls came down, places like Estonia. I know what those people had to endure under that regime. And there is no individuality tolerated at all. And if you need any further proof than that, really, read the Gulag Archipelago book by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. There you go. They locked him up for criticism of Stalin, which he came to realize, and communism, is a disease and a plague. Under the belief that all property is theft. Well, prove that. We have laws. All right? We know who criminals are. Let's deal with them. But you hand it all over to the state, the collective, and you wrap it all up in this dogma. And to get it, you're not allowed a dissenting voice once that's done. It will not tolerate different choices. It will dictate brutally, declaring the right to eliminate opposition or history, lest it remind itself, of course, of itself. And there's loosely put, how I feel about that. How dare these half-educated miscreants have the audacity to think that they're onto something that's beneficial to everybody. It's not. They're very self-congratulatory about themselves, but they don't really share much. They don't leave themselves open to debate. It's all dictate. It's a very much a feel-good organization, but only about themselves.
Under the headline Migrant, you talk about your first move to the USA and New York, and you refer to New York as grimy. And New York is slipping horribly back to where it was in the 70s. Same for Los Angeles. I know you live on the West Coast now.
Yeah, my politics have been altered somewhat American style here, most definitely by the examples that democratic councils and governors have created. I mean, they're destroying the West Coast. I watch it. I live here. It's pretty hard to take and endure that's the future. And they've totally cynically put up a man who, to my mind, resembles the Alzheimer's that my wife is currently suffering from. This is not acceptable to me. This is a death by committee, really. I mean, he's just a showpiece, an empty head. Who are we voting for? What committee will make the dictates of the future? What an awful future that will be. It will just be high taxes and less amenities for anybody who has any sense of working hard for a living.
Now, let's real quick, the documentary, because I, of course, want to talk about your support or at least your vote for Trump. How much of what you're talking, is any of this in the public image?
No, and it doesn't need to be. At the time I was writing this was last year, and I wanted to stay out of the politics side because I think I've made it clear over the years that I stand as an individual. And this collective hive thinking that's now being thrown at me from the left is well, it's about time I said something about it. I mean, I didn't ask to be put on this stage. It's just for wearing a T-shirt. Well, hello. Why should that receive all that negativity and hate? It's just a viewpoint. What kind of world is it they're marching us into? They want to defund the police, but a police state is what their end conclusion will be.
So this is what I don't get. It seems like, again, this movement that they claim begins with you, they've got 1,000,000,000% wrong. You write about conformity in the book. The entire punk ethic is not to submit to a new conformity. It is to maintain your individualism. Everything you're talking about speaks to everything we discuss on this program every single day. The concept of libertarianism, limited government, be an individual, and yet these people are creating this it's actually ultra conformist. And while they're trying to claim that what they're doing is progressive, there's nothing progressive about it.
No, it's actually slavery that they're trying to introduce to us, which is the most bizarre thing. Because you get the Black Lives Matter lot there. Well, it sounds like a reasonable statement. Of course, Black Lives Matter. But that's not really the politics of it at all. You see, this is one of their hopes. That their Marxist agenda is to throw out confusion and keep questioning the truth to the point where you don't know what's what anymore. This is one of their major tools, because they're not very deep thinkers themselves. I think Karl Marx would turn in his grave, really, and I have read him. Have you found out what they're doing to him?
So what made you...
I've got to say this, too, about Karl Marx. If you understand anything about his life and his lifestyle, well, he wasn't exactly a great worker himself, and he did parasite off all his wealthy friends.
Yeah, and Engels did a lot of the writing.
But more to the point, creativity, individuality, these are the things that benefit society, and you cannot have that in a collective hive. You cancel individuality because it stands out. It creates a difference, and that cannot be accepted. And I'm sorry, I don't wear no man's uniform. I'm not cannon fodder.
I got to ask you a crazy question. Johnny Ramone was a lifelong conservative, a Reagan conservative. When he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he said, "God bless President Bush." Did you ever have political discussions with someone like Johnny Ramone back in the day? And because again, this entire thing doesn't happen without the Sex Pistols and the Ramones. Did you ever have any contemporaries back in the day who felt the way you feel?
No, we would never be enemies. And I knew Johnny very well, and Joey. We would not be enemies over political points of view. I mean, there are reasons for in Britain where I support the national health system, for instance, because it saved my brother from a cancer death. Right? And I'm very, very grateful for that. It's something that I couldn't have financially helped alone. So I see good things in certain aspects of everything, but I can't go all the way with that because it will run down everything. Because there's no inspiration coming from that point of view, that left-wing point of view. It's all very nice and good feeling, this matters and that matters. But ultimately what they're offering us is a slow death by committee. All right, and there it goes. And just under communism alone, I mean, how many ultimate millions were slaughtered just because they went against the communist grain? You know, they're not rioting for me, they're not rioting for you, they're not rioting for any of us. Right? They've not got a good place for us in any of this. Before they act, they should think. You know, when you reach a crossing, a crosswalk, or a zebra crossing, as we'd say in England, you should think, and then think again before you cross that street. They're not good for us. The arrogance. It's the collective feel-good mentality that lures them in. But the collective hates the individual. It hates creativity. It hates different. My gosh, these folk really think they're being different. Well,
No,
why are you all wearing the same uniform?
So I got to ask, you went out and got yourself, what made you wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to get myself a red Make America Great Again shirt. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be photographed eventually, and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. What? Just tell me about how that evolution, that process.
Well, I've got Trump friends. You know, I've got left-wing friends, but I listen more to my Trump friends because they make more sense to me. It's a few years ago, somebody asked me what I thought of Trump, and there's lots I don't like about him. But I'm not buying his personality. I'm buying the opportunities he offers to this country. You know, he really did do wonders for the unemployed and the economy, and how dare you doubt that? And CNN consistently doubt that, or rub it under the carpet. So there you go, a Donald Trump T-shirt, cap, whatever. I'm all for it because I believe that there's some hope in that. There's a brightness in it, but there isn't in the opposition. Just a dark, endless dearth and destruction.
So you're going out.
There it goes, free thinker. I've got to tell you this. I love Donald Trump's speeches. They have me in fits. I think he has a fantastic sense of humour. He has me rolling half the time. And I've got to say, last night in that interrogation he endured, I thought he was magnificent the way he handled her. She was just yelling and screaming and cackling and interrupting. The very things they accused him of, but of course it's all right for them.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's exactly what I was calling it when we started the program a couple of hours ago. I saw that you have a speaking tour coming up for the fall of 2021. Is this what it's going to be? Is it going to be this, what you're doing, what we're doing right now?
If those are the questions that people have to offer me, yes, I'm more than prepared to sit there and deal with it in a one-to-one civilized way. Because I don't make these decisions lightly. They're based on common sense from me. As I said, I'm working class, you know. All right? It's hard enough to survive in any system. But the hope for us as working class people is to do the best we can and move on and up the ladder to a much more comfortable zone for not only us, but our family and friends. What this is on offer to me right now is socialism, barely disguised as socialism, is full-on communism, and that offers no hope at all. That's telling me, stay where you are. And that isn't good enough.
I got to ask another question.
And they're not good enough to decide what's best for me either, or you, or any of us.
You're 100% right.
They play anarchy, mind games for the middle class. I said that when I released that single. That's exactly what it is. It's a question. But it isn't these.
You have so many artists.
They turned anarchy, oddly enough, and much to my disgust, into a monopoly, a corporate body that cannot be questioned.
You have so many artists.
Goodbye, Democrat. The party's over.
You have so many artists.
The Beastie Boys said I got the right to party.
You have so many artists that are influenced by you, whether they know it or not, whether it's the Pistols or Public Image Limited. Yeah. And I look at some of these people who are making more money than the bands, even the biggest selling bands of the 70s and 80s were making, right? I mean, it's money on top of money on top of money on top of money. And then they're all coming out and supporting this. And it's like...
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yes.
It's so hypocritical. And ludicrous. I mean, by making as much money as you want. I'm not jealous of the rich. I'm certainly not jealous of the poor either. I do the best I can to get by, but it just strikes me as very odd. I mean, at the moment, it's an article that came up. It's about Rage Against the Machine, the drummer. Poor sod, he's going through a divorce, and that can't be great for anybody in that family. But they're putting their house up for sale in Santa Monica here for 4 endless zeros million, right? It's wow, you know, How does that bode well with your communist philosophy? Do you not see a hypocrisy in it?
No, I do. And look, again, this speaking tour, the book, the documentary, the shirt. I mean, this is the siren, right? I mean, these artists, they have got this whole when I hear Tom Morello talk about his love for punk rock and especially you, it's like, I wish he would listen to this interview. I wish some of these people that are out there pushing all of the things you described, every single thing you just said, I agree with.
Well,
I wish these artists...
it's about time, really, that I came out. Let's put it that way. Give them now a chance to reconsider the ludicrous go safe point of view that everybody's been lulled into, this false sense of security of, well, we've got to take care of our black folk. Of course we have to. That's what we do in life. We look out for each other. But if you're just going to ram it down our throats through, I'm a trained Marxist debaters, well, that's then pure evil. And that's nothing at all that's going to help you or anybody in the world.
You're 100% right about that.
And they're not recognizing the enemy. And it's unfortunate. I live in California. My God, don't you know I'm watching what Hollywood is? It's the biggest hypocrite of them all. I've been to Democrat fundraisers here years ago, and I hated it. I couldn't believe these overprivileged, self-righteous, sanctimonious, pompous, nose up in the air types, and didn't suspect what it would lead into, that there'd be generations so easily led by that endless nonsense being thrown at you, that this is all for the benefit of mankind. It's not. They're talking an elitist little minority of themselves manipulating the future for their own benefits, where the rest of us will become slaves to a system. And if you dare say boo or squeak against that system, really, you're looking at death. You are. You can see it in the violence in them and the wanton destruction. There's nothing positive in that. And by the way, I have never in my life supported a riot. What's the point in destroying somebody else's property? How is that going to benefit mankind?
It doesn't.
My God, particularly if it's places you eat.
John Lydon is joining us. He has a new book, I Could Be Wrong, I Could Be Right. The Public Image Limited documentary, Public Image is Rotten, is coming out October 27th. He'll be going out on a speaking tour this time next year. So last question, sir, and I just want to say you are welcome. Whenever you have something you want to say on Sirius XM Patriot, you have an open invitation to come back. If Donald Trump, if the Trump campaign said, we want you, John Lydon, on stage.
He's got me in heartbeat. You don't even need to finish the sentence, fella. and the fun of all it, I met Donald Trump years and years ago and had a bit of an argument because I can't remember. He was just some pop star. My wife accidentally trod on the very large train of her dress and it tore. And he was, what's that sort doing here? Well, I'll tell you what that sort was doing there, because it was all about my clothes designs that he was attending. So indirectly, he was admiring stuff from my creative side. So we do have a connection, even though it's a volatile one. But that doesn't change my opinions of, like, behind all that smokescreen of puffery that he exudes, and I think so well too. There's a much more sensible approach to life. Remove the hate, remove the jealousy, and that's all left-wing politics is offering me. I mean, they're co-opting these young kids into this movement by they're teaching them to hate their own families, who paid for this institutionalization, because it's not education they've endured. These foolish university and college courses that just fill their heads with only barely 50% of the information. And so we're back really to, read the Gulag Archipelago, boys and girls, Solzhenitsyn, right? Not a man to be trifled with intellectually. and go forth and understand that that's the mentality you're trying to inflict on us. Police state death camps. Fantastic. You know?
Well, yeah, and again...
I've seen their efforts in Chaz or Chav or whatever they wanted to call it.
Chop.
Wonderful, huh?
Yeah.
They turned it into a cesspit.
I hope someone can walk up to one of these people and go, you know the thing you claim, the legacy, the guy who created that doesn't like what you're doing and thinks you're out of your mind. Out of your mind.
I've had it. I've had them come to my front door here. They actually broke in. This was last year. I was in my other house, and we came back. We were just getting a plane to England the next morning, and they'd moved into the front little yard area and pitched their tents outside and inside the wall and stored all their stuff. I had to have it removed. The police were very slow to respond, to the point where they didn't even turn up. I had to have them, removed by threatening behaviour, I suppose you could call it. But it was you best leave or else. They did, but they came back later claiming that I'd stolen their stuff after breaking and entering. Now, the stuff they had was, electrolyte powder. Huge sacks, enormous, great things that you couldn't carry yourself. So, of course, that was all for drug paraphernalia and the likes of it. And I think that's what fuels some of these late-night riots. They're all high as kites, speeding out of their minds without thinking. But the hatred they had for me was quite appalling.
Well, I can imagine.
And it's usually a girl will come at you first and yell and scream and get in your face. And then there'll be 10 and 15 of them trying to surround you. These are learned tactics, and they've been at it for a long time. But it's quite amazing that they've infiltrated the homeless camps.
Yeah, and
there's progress for you. Is that going to be, the indicator for all of us in the future?
The hate coming your way is probably about to get worse. I do have to take my break. I would love to have you back anytime. Yep. John Lydon's new book is I Could Be Wrong, I Could Be Right. The Public Image Limited documentary, Public Image is Rotten, is coming out on the 27th speaking tour coming next year. John Lydon, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Can I just add, yes, of course the hate's going to become excessive and excel, because that's all they have to offer. But for me, anger is my energy, and that's a quote out of Rise. May the road rise with you, and your enemies always be behind you. May they scatter, flatter, batter, and shatter.
We're right. They're wrong. That's the end of the story. The arguments on this radio program cannot be broken. Sirius XM Patriot.